UConn won the national championship. We'll recap the Final Four. MLB just starting up. We'll pick our division winners, and the Masters are this weekend. This is Incompetent Sports Talk. Welcome to Incompetent Sports Talk. I'm with Mike Rabin. I'm Alex Salzma. Jake Berger's had some class tonight, so we'll excuse him from this show.
Academics.
I know.
Please.
We're not here for academics. We're here for sports. Let's talk about the NCAA tournament. UConn is your 2011 NCAA champion, but I think probably the biggest talking point from the NCAA tournament, or at least the Final Four, was Butler getting to the Final Four, getting the championship game was an amazing run, but their performance was not very good in the title game. We'll go through some of the numbers, and then I'll let you analyze them. 18.8 shooting percentage from the field. That is the worst ever in an NCAA title game. They were 12 for 64 from the field, 3 of 31 from three-point land, and they had 10 shots blocked. But despite this, they had a 13-11 lead with about halfway to go through the first half, and in the second half, they had a lead of 25-19. They were up 22-19 at half, so they still hung around despite this. But Mike, your thoughts on the title game?
Well, you talked about halftime. Shelvin Mack hits the long NBA range three-point shot to break the tie from 19-all to 22-19 going into half. So you think, okay, it's been an ugly game, but here we go. Butler hits another big-time shot. They're going to move forward. You're right. They open up the half. They hit another three in the second half, and all of a sudden it's a 6-point game, and you're thinking, okay, Butler, are they going to win the national championship? Are they going to be the second mid-major since they've started seeding in the tournament to win a national title? And unfortunately, like you articulated there, they were unable to hit baskets.
Yeah.
They hit 9 threes, which is great. 9 threes in the game is what you want, or is something that you would be happy with. But only 3 2-point field goals.
Yeah.
And that is just not a formula for victory. You do not see teams win with that sort of formula. And they ended up losing by 12. And UConn, congratulations to them. But when you look at UConn's performance, they shot 34.5% from the field. Kimball Walker was 5 for 19 from the field. Nobody was particularly impressive for UConn either. So for me, it was kind of disappointing to see the college basketball season in that way. And to be fair, if these teams played 10 times, the game wouldn't be like this every time. I think we could have a couple of games where maybe they're scoring in the 70s, where all the shots are falling for Butler and for UConn. So this is just one of those nights where the shots weren't falling for either team, and UConn was able to hit a few more in the final 10 minutes and pull away and get it done. And I really think UConn's athleticism really paid off when Butler wasn't able to hit shots, because Butler was not able to get back in transition on some of those long rebounds, and UConn got some easy buckets, and that facilitated their victory.
Yeah, and Butler missed a lot of shots inside the paint too. A lot of bunnies just rattled around the rim, wouldn't fall in. It was kind of an anticlimactic end to what was an exciting tournament, not necessarily from a quality perspective. The best teams weren't winning. There wasn't really a lot of great teams in the field, but a lot of late games, a lot of buzzer beaters, a lot of close, exciting finishes throughout this tournament, but kind of a thud to end the tournament.
Yeah, disappointing way to see it end. I agree. It would have been nice to see a Butler-Duke sort of game from a year ago where it came down to Butler just missing a half-court shot at the end and having it decided that way. It's just there's so many storylines looking into this. Jim Calhoun gets his 3rd national championship. UConn finished 500 in the Big East. They finished 9th in the conference. Butler didn't even win the Horizon League regular season, yet both these teams in the madness of March make it to the national title game, and unfortunately it was unexciting. And now on KRUI Sports this week on the website, I made an argument that I would rather watch the UNLV victory 103-73 over Duke every time in 1990 in the national title than watch that 12-point game the other day. Now, if you just look at the scores, you'd probably say, oh, I'd rather watch Butler and UConn because it's a little closer game. But if we're talking about quality of teams playing at a high level, quality of players moving on to the NBA, that Duke-UNLV comparison I think makes sense because there was just that game was played at a higher level, up-tempo paced game. This game was slow, ugly in all aspects, and it was just very hard for me to stay engaged in that game as they kept moving forward, and especially when UConn started pulling away a little bit there in the final 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we were watching the game together. Throughout the middle of it, we were kind of pulling up videos on YouTube, just watching some stuff to pass the time because it was just a boring basketball game.
It's too bad.
And it's not necessarily the fact that because it was Butler, and they're a mid-major and we didn't have interest. We did, but it was just to shoot that poor. We were just hoping, praying that the shots would go in, and they just wouldn't go in. And I thought what was very interesting was Brad Stevens' face when he was getting interviewed after the game. It was kind of just like this smile where it's just, hey, what can I do? I mean, nothing would fall in. But you could tell he was evidently heartbreaked. I mean, his heart was broken 2 years now in the national title game and losing both of those games. But still a great achievement for him.
Yeah, and you got to wonder if Brad Stevens, I think he will hang around for at least another year at Butler. You got to wonder what happens if Butler barely slides into the tournament or has a year where they don't make it, which honestly is very possible considering the fact that Butler, does not have a large recruiting base. Now, maybe they will get more after these last two championships, but it's going to be interesting to see where he goes or if he just decides to stay at Butler because he could. He's got great job security at least through 2022, and they might extend it even further because of back-to-back title runs.
Yeah.
And like they talked about on CBS, that was the first time a team from the state of Indiana went to back-to-back Final Fours. And you think about the really good Indiana State teams from the late 70s, and you think about Indiana and Purdue, two rich basketball schools in terms of their history. It's amazing that Butler was able to accomplish that.
Yeah, and speaking of Purdue, Gene Cady never even made a Final Four. And then you got Brad Stevens comes in and makes two Final Fours. Just an amazing run for him. And then Shaka Smart, who we talked a lot about last week, deciding he'll stay at VCU. Of course, he got a healthy contract extension. His contract was at about $325,000 a year. Now he's going to get paid over $1 million a year. Why do you think he stayed?
Well, first I was going to say he was making around $300,000 plus he got bonuses I think of up to about $75,000 to make it near $400,000 for making it to the Final Four. And yes, now he's getting a hefty salary increase, which is well deserved, and congratulations to him. I think he stays at VCU because maybe a school like NC State, who offered him, just isn't as appealing as maybe the national media or people like me in the ACC think it is. And clearly that looks to be the case. I mean, at NC State he's going to have more resources. He's going to have a larger booster support. He's going to have better facilities. He's going to have more everything. But he thinks, maybe at VCU, look at the progress I've made. I've won a CBI title. I made it to a Final Four. Maybe I can continue to move forward with this program and then wait for something better. Now, I know you don't want to think these coaches are waiting for something better, but honestly, Shaka Smart, let's be real.
Yeah.
He's waiting for a better opportunity to go.
Yeah.
Not that he doesn't like VCU, but he's waiting for that right opportunity to come along. And I think once it does, if it's offered, he will definitely take it.
Yeah, now speaking of NC State, Mark Gottfried recently announced he'll be the coach there. I think it's a good move by them. He's a veteran coach, experience at Murray State, and then going over to Alabama. Took Alabama consistently to the NCAA tournament, had an Elite Eight run one year. Kind of tapered off toward the end, had a couple seasons where they didn't make the NCAA tournament, and we kind of got shown the door and came to ESPN, kind of kept his notoriety up, being an analyst on ESPN, ESPNU, and now, hey, he's got the NC State job.
The ACC has been volatile in terms of their coaches the last 2 years. You had Donahue from Cornell go to Boston College. Frank Haith just took the Missouri job, leaving Miami.
What'd you think of that? That's an interesting hire. A lot of debate about that hire.
Miami does not have a rich basketball tradition, and he struggled there. He only had one season where they were 500 in the ACC, and his highest finish in the regular season was 5th. So, of course, there's going to be hefty criticism, and I think deservedly so. But at the same time, I think at a school like Missouri, which showed this to Painter, even though Painter decided to stay at Purdue, Missouri has nice facilities. They have fans and boosters and administration that really wants to have a strong basketball program, and Haith's getting a great opportunity. So it's one of those things that when you look at his resume in terms of his results, you've got to be skeptical of the hire, and I think there's going to be a short lease there. But at the same time, he really has an opportunity to prove himself, and you've got to wonder sometimes, sometimes people think about Iowa State. You go there, look at Gene Chizik, goes 5-19, then goes to Auburn and wins a national title. And I'm not saying Frank Haith's going to win a national title in Missouri, but some schools it's just really hard to get over that hump. And maybe we'll see at Missouri with those resources and that backing do a better job. So right now I'm neutral on it. I think it's a risky hire by Mike Alden, but I think there's a possibility that Miami was just one of those jobs where he was never going to. We're never going to see those results in his resume.
Yeah, and a lot of schools, a lot of major conference schools made a lot of hires recently. Like we saw Anderson go to Arkansas. We already talked about the NC State hire. Georgia Tech got the Dayton coach Brian Gregory. We saw Mizzou get their coach in Haith. Which school, throughout all this coaching carousel, which school do you think made the best hire?
You know, it's tough. I think you look at Arkansas.
Yeah,
I think they got a great
so
coach
too,
in
yeah.
Anderson. I mean, you look at what he did at Missouri, taking them to the tournament consistently, and he was also an assistant under Nolan Richardson for 17 seasons. So that connection, that familial connection, and his success at Missouri, I think gives Arkansas a huge hand. And I think Gregory from Dayton, I think he did a great job there. And I think if he can get recruits in the state of Georgia and in the South in particular to stay in Atlanta at Georgia Tech, the Yellow Jackets could make a push again. You think about it, in the last 22 years or so, they did go to a Final Four in 1990, and they went in 2004 with Paul Hewitt. So it is possible for Georgia Tech to make a push in the NCAA tournament. They've done it, and I think Donahue, if he can get recruits to stay there, which is the biggest battle, I think he can be successful. And someone made this argument from the Dayton Free Press, which I thought was a great argument. He doesn't even have to win the ACC. If he can get third or fourth behind maybe Duke, UNC, you throw a team, sometimes that third place team rolls in and out. Maryland's typically got a pretty solid program. If he's in the third or fourth range consistently, he's going to have a lot of job security, and he'll make the tournament every year. So the stakes at Georgia Tech, I think, are really good for him. I think things have lined up well, and the circumstances are provided to him will allow him to be successful.
I love the Anderson hire. Long-time assistant, like you said, for Nolan Richardson. Richardson, I think, kind of won his welcome toward the end, very polarizing, had a lot of controversial statements, was shown the door at Arkansas. And then Pelfrey, recently the coach, took him to only one tournament. They definitely fell off the map. I like that they bring him in. He's going to bring that energy, that excitement. He's proven he can win at Missouri, proved he can win at UAB even before that, taking them to the NCAA tournament. That style of play, I think, is going to be a welcome addition.
And watch out for this rumor in the offseason, and I know this is a rumor, but this is the beauty of sports and sports talk. Calipari thinking about testing the NBA waters again.
Geez.
So I know it's early. I don't think it'll actually happen. But there's rumination, there's discussion about it. So keep that in your minds, listeners. Keep that in mind that Calipari might not be at Kentucky the next year. That's a possibility.
And I also think Texas Tech, when they hired Billy Gillispie, I think that's a great hire too. Billy Gillispie finally back in coaching where he belongs. Also, too, we'll mention this. It isn't really a hard story, but USA Today did a survey of over 13,000 college basketball fans, and they asked them the question, who is your favorite play-by-play announcer for college basketball, and who is your favorite color commentator? And what America said was play-by-play, Gus Johnson, color, Bill Raftery. And those are my two favorites, too, in those regards. So I think, America, you did a great job choosing those two. Bill Raftery, it doesn't even matter who's playing. If Bill Raftery's calling the game, I got to watch. And there's not a lot of announcers you can say that about.
I think both of those guys are at those positions are the consummate leaders at those positions. They do a great job painting that picture for you and keeping you excited. There's different styles, and you can appreciate the old Southern gentleman like Vern Lundquist, at least the way he presents himself. You can appreciate that. You think about SEC football, and then you think about Jim Nantz. I mean, he's done such great things. His work at the Masters, there's no one that can top what he does at the Masters. I don't know if anyone ever will. In basketball, Gus Johnson, his ability to get you excited no matter who's playing, I think puts him above and beyond everybody else. And then the classic one-liners from Bill Raftery and sometimes you think of one-liners, you think cliches, overused, not very good, but the ones that Raftery uses are great, and they keep you intrigued, and they make you laugh, but at the same time they're serious. So I think I completely agree with, I guess, America's sentiments there.
Yes. Go to Bill Raftery's Wikipedia page. There's a list about this long of every Bill Raftery-ism, and they're great. Or just look them up on YouTube if you got to kill about an hour or two. And the Gus Johnson soundboard, Google that. That's also great if you want to blow some time. Let's talk MLB. I got my Cubs tie on today, so even though I don't know how they're going to do this year, unfortunately I'm not going to pick them to win the NL Central. So there's a little teaser for everybody. But we'll start in the AL East. I'm going to still go with the Red Sox, and I know we are a few games into the season, and they have struggled so far. They went to Texas and got swept there, but I think this is a very tough division. It's going to be like a bare-knuckle fight. They got one of the best lineups in baseball. I still think the Red Sox, even though they've struggled early, the season's 162 games. You can't really base off what you see in the first 5 games, but I like them to still win this division. How about you?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to take the Red Sox as well. I think
Yeah.
on paper it's incredibly difficult to pick against them. The addition of Adrian Gonzalez from the Padres at first base, I think, gives the Red Sox a clear advantage, especially when you think about that short right field porch out there, porch in quotations there, that gives them the opportunity to hit more home runs. David Ortiz, a great player. So many guys on that team. You go down the line, name every guy in the lineup, like you said, and say, wow, this guy's a challenge at the plate. And then the pitching as well. I mean, John Lester's a great pitcher. He's already set some MLB records for his career 6 years in. So I think the Red Sox are going to win. But you got to watch out. A team like Baltimore is the top of the division while we're recording this show, and a team like Toronto took 2 out of 3 from the Twins. A lot of people think the Twins are going to be a solid team this year as well. And again, it's early. Yeah. We're only about a series and a half, 2 series in.
The Royals are still winning.
Yeah, it's a long way to go. So what we're saying now might be completely wrong in 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to take the Red Sox.
Yeah. AL Central, I'm going to go with the Tigers. The Tigers last year were a team that they were rolling pretty well throughout the season, and then they got hampered by injuries, and then the wheels kind of just came off the bus. They got a really good rotation. I like Martinez. I like Cabrera. I think Detroit, now the White Sox could win this, the Twins could win it, but I think the Tigers at the end of the day sneak by and win the AL Central.
I love Justin Verlander. I think he's a great pitcher for the Tigers. I'm going to go with the Twins, a little bit of a homer pick. I did graduate high school in Lakeville, Minnesota, so I am a Twins fan and I love Target Field. But I think the Twins, despite their struggles against the Blue Jays, losing 2 out of 3, losing Game 1 to the Yankees, and then I know as we're recording this program, they were losing in the 7th, 4-0 to the Yankees again. But they're playing the tough part of the schedule. The AL East is a tough division. The Twins over the last decade have been incredible in interleague play, one of the best records in interleague play of any team in baseball, and then they dominate against the Central. So I think the Twins find a way. They do enough to get back to the playoffs. I think Morneau is going to play better, even though ironically they played better with him in the second half last season to get to the playoffs to play the Yankees. And I think if Kubel has another strong performance in their lineup, they've got some changes in their lineup. They lost J.J. Hardy. They lost Orlando Hudson. And so players like Casilla and Nishiaka are going to have to step in and make a difference. But I think the Twins get it done.
Let's go to the AL West. I'm going to go with the Oakland A's. I think they got a great pitching staff. I know Texas looked good early, but I think they got more depth in the pitching staff. They have a good offense, a good enough offense to think that will give them the edge. But Texas, hey, they went to the World Series last year. Who do you like here?
Yeah, C.J. Wilson's a really good pitcher. Obviously, Cliff Lee's played for, it feels like, half the teams in Major League Baseball over the last 3 years. When you think about it, he was on the Rangers after the trade deadline last year. He was on the Yankees, the Phillies. Now he's back on the Phillies. He was on the Mariners a year ago on this show when you picked them to win the division. No, I mean, he started with the Mariners.
Yeah, I did,
and then he ended with the Rangers. No, I mean,
that was
it's
a bad
okay.
pick.
They had a great. They had Eric Bedard last year. The Mariners had a great pitching staff. And you look at the Giants. They won the World Series last year because of their pitching staff. It definitely was not because of their bats. It was because of their pitching staff. And I think the Rangers still have enough in their pitching staff. And then obviously you look at Hamilton's one of the best hitters in the game of baseball right now. Ian Kinsler's a wily veteran. I like the Rangers to win the division again.
Let's go to the NL East. Hey, the Phillies, there's a reason why they're getting the hype. I know some people are going to try to slide in, pick the Braves as a sexy pick, but the Phillies they're just so consistent over the last few years, and the additions that they had over the offseason. I think with them, I think they should be the favorite to win this. They're deservingly so. I'm going to pick them, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Rollins, you look at Howard. I mean, those guys are great. Chase Utley, injured to start the season, but he'll be back, and he's obviously a tremendous player. So they're hitting obviously down the line, great. And then you look at their pitching staff. Obviously, Roy Halladay, amazing pitcher, just game in and game out, going long innings, wins and losses, does a tremendous job. Roy Oswalt, all those years with the Astros where he couldn't get anything done, even though he's pitching great. Now he's with this team with the Phillies. I think he's going to do a great job. And then Cliff Lee's back with the Phillies again. So I think it gives them a great opportunity. And then at the 4 spot, they've got Joe Blanton, who's also a really good pitcher that has really gotten buried because of the 3 guys in front of him. So I think the Phillies run away with this one in the end.
NL Central, it kills me because I'm a Cubs fan, but I'm going to go with Cincinnati. I think last year wasn't a fluke. Again, this is going to be a deep division. I think the Cardinals have a really good shot at winning this. The Braves, I know they've started off bad, and the Cardinals started off bad, but I think both these teams are still going to be in the mix come at the end of the year. But I think Cincinnati wins this one.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a close race. Cincinnati, a great opening weekend sweeping the Brewers,
Yeah.
which I loved, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
But I think the Cardinals, who struggled against the Padres,
Yeah.
I think the Cardinals find a way to win this division. I think Colby Rasmus is going to have a big year in the outfield at the plate. I think he's going to step up big for them and really have a big step from last year. And obviously Albert Pujols is one of the most dynamic hitters in the game. He's set Major League Baseball history in ways already. And so I think the Cardinals, in a tough division, in a tight division that's going to beat each other up a lot, I think the Cardinals come out and win the division.
NL West, home of the defending World Series champion, San Francisco Giants. I think they will win again. That pitching staff might be the best in baseball, at least one of the best. I think they'll win it again. Who do you pick?
Yeah, you got to look at Lincecum. His opening night start, he gives up no earned runs. He gets a loss to the Dodgers. Now, granted, I'll give Clayton Kershaw a lot of credit for the Dodgers. He's one of the best young pitchers in the game as well. But I think the Giants find a way again. I think their hitting's got to improve. You know, Andres Torres, you can't strike out 2 or 3 times a game if you're going to be a leadoff hitter. And, you know, look at players like Pat Burrell, just old, but they've been around forever. And, you know, they were old last year.
Yeah.
You know, Aubrey Huff at first base, old, but finding a way to get it done. You look at Buster Posey, he's still technically was first opening day, still technically a rookie. I think the Giants are going to find a way to squeak in, but I don't think they're going to win the World Series again this year.
Okay, World Series prediction. Who do you think will be in the World Series at the end of the year? Then who do you have winning it?
You know, this is a challenge. It's incredibly challenging, but I have gone bold, and I think the Yankees, out of the wild card, are going to actually win the World Series. And they're going to shock the world again and get it done. And by shocking the world, I mean, what are they going to have, their 30th World Series championship or 29th? I don't know. I can't keep it straight anymore. But I think the Yankees are going to get it done. And honestly, I feel like when I make a pick for the NL, it's just, I don't want to say a coin flip, but I mean, drawing a name out of a hat.
Yeah.
I feel like there are so many more teams that could really get there. And you can say the same thing about the AL in a lot of ways. Colin Cowherd on his radio show made the point that he thought there were 20 teams in baseball that had a chance to make the playoffs. And that just, I think that indicates the parity. And I agree with him. There's a lot of parity in baseball. So, I'm going to go bold, and I'm going to say it's going to be the Cardinals and the Yankees. And the Yankees are going to win the World Series.
I'm going to go Red Sox and Phillies. More of a conventional pick, but I think that could very likely at the end of the year be the World Series.
Absolutely.
This weekend, a tradition unlike any other, the Masters on CBS is this weekend. And we're not really going to, there's no need to pick a winner or anything. It's so hard to pick winners for golf tournaments, especially now that you don't have Tiger versus the field bets going on anymore. But I love watching the Masters. There's something about it. It's springtime. It's early April. You hear that music. You see the beautiful course at Augusta National. Just everything about the Masters. One of my favorite things just about sports is the tradition. It gets renewed every year, whether it's the tradition of college football, the tradition of college basketball, the tradition of something like Wimbledon, and the Masters is just right along with that. And then you get the same announcers calling it every year. You got Jim Nantz, you got Bill, what's his name? Peter Costas, you got Bill McAtee, you got Vern Lundquist, you got everybody. It's the same guys every single year. And Ian Baker Finch. I just love these guys. They do such a good job on CBS. There's a reason why they get this contract every single year. And they do it on a year-to-year basis, too, which I think is interesting. But, Mike, what do you think about the Masters?
And CBS, for the record, they prove themselves. Like you said, they do a great job every year, and I can't imagine it any other way. I'm not saying that maybe ESPN couldn't have like all 4 days and do better, because they do a pretty decent job the first 2 days.
And they pretty much mirror the CBS
So
format,
I think it's possible
carry,
that ESPN could carry all 4 days and do nearly as well.
It has the minimalist approach, and it works for the Masters. It doesn't for most other sports, but it does for the Masters.
Obviously, it's Americana. As you like to say. I love it. It's exciting. I know there's some history, some darker history behind the Masters tournament in Augusta that may upset some historians. I love history. You and I both love history.
Yes.
But at the same time, in its modern form, I really appreciate the Masters tournament, and I think it is the best tournament in golf. Call me an American homer, but love or to leave it, Ricky Stanzi
and the thing
style.
Is,
that's where I'm at this
same
point with
course
the Masters.
every single year. You know all the holes. You know Amen Corner. You know that par 3 16 where the water's right in front of the green. You just get so familiar with the course. Where you go to like the Open Championship In Britain, it's a different course every year. The PGA Tour, it's a different course every year. U.S. Open, different course every year. Granted, though, you get some of the same courses every few years, but the fact that the Masters is on the same course every year, and most of the golfers say that this is their favorite tournament. You love Butler Cabin, the green jacket, all that stuff. I'm a sucker for all that.
And Phil Mickelson's story from a year ago is a tremendous one.
Mm-hmm.
It's one that makes your heart really go out to him, and what a great job he did. And he won his first major back in 2004 at the Masters, and I can still remember his throwing his hands up and his visor in the air. So there's just, that's where Mickelson really made a name for himself. I mean, he had been a great player, but he'd always been runner-up or third, and he could win all these other tournaments, but he couldn't win the major. And then finally in 2004, he gets the big one at the Masters, and now he wins the second green jacket a year ago. And I really look forward. And the Tiger Woods part of it is fascinating as well. It'll be interesting to see again, but I think the Masters is bigger than Tiger.
The only thing that bugs me is no matter how far behind Tiger is, you will see him practically hit every one of his shots. It doesn't matter.
And I think that's more of a result or a function of
ratings
Tiger Woods and ratings, not the Masters itself. Like I said, I think the Masters is bigger than Tiger. Now, there are a lot of tournaments where Tiger is bigger than the tournament. So, but I think the Masters on its own is bigger.
We'll be tuning in this weekend, so at least we'll have something to watch in my post-basketball depression, being that it's not around anymore, but we will be tuning into the Masters this weekend. If you'd like to make any comments, our email, uiowaist@gmail.com. So for Mike Rabin and Jake Burgers, who's in class right now, I'm Alex Salzma. Good night and go Hawks.